The United States have died from a spate of
Ma'am,
winter
you'll be
storms.
live after this.
The weather is threatening to pummel the mid-Atlantic and northeast with snow and ice. 100 million people stretching from Texas to Massachusetts are under a winter storm warning or winter weather advisory. More than days.
Can you open your hoodie just a little bit?
Multiplication of the
Yeah,
harrowing tales
okay,
of
perfect.
hardship.
Thank you, ma'am.
Texans have borne the brunt of the distress of the more than 1 million US citizens without power on Thursday morning. 600,000 were in Texas. The outages are down from an earlier count of more than 5 million, but harsher weather could impact more Americans. There's broad blankets of snow and widespread power outages in places including Oklahoma, is moving east on Thursday, bringing with it a centimetre of ice to parts of North Carolina, Virginia and Maryland. It is in effect for parts of the Florida Panhandle, southwest Georgia and southeast Alabama. Washington, D.C. is coated in snow, sleet and freezing rain, while New York sees 15 to 20 centimetres of snow in the afternoon. Already been impacted by the storms has spent days without power and water and likely won't see temperatures rise above freezing until next week. Many have been turning to other means like gas stoves and generators to stay warm, running the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Been attributed to the winter storms since Thursday. Disease Control and Prevention warned doctors on Wednesday to be aware of the increased hazard of carbon monoxide poisonings and deaths as storms sweep through the country. Situation in Dallas, Texas is Devon Valldejuli Butler. Devon, thank you for joining me today. Sorry I stumbled over your name, but you must be freezing out there.
Oh no, Texans of course are used to this freezing cold weather. As you can tell, it's just a normal day here in February.
Seeing scenes of Texas under the hot temperatures. This isn't strictly usual, is it?
No, absolutely not. This is actually one of the worst winters in Texas history. We've had millions without power. We're very fortunate that we happen to live next to a hospital, so our electricity has been on. But even for those who are unfortunate, like we have been asked to, moderate our energy usage, our electricity and so forth in order for, everyone else to be able to use from that grid as well. So definitely a lot of people feeling the cold. We're not prepared for this just because it is so abnormal. Even our pool's frozen.
Right. And yesterday there were several million people without electricity for quite long periods of time. And also I believe there's some problems with water supply as well. Just how difficult has it been for the residents of Texas?
So we have a number of friends and family around who have been over 3 days now with no electricity. Unfortunately for our brother-in-law, a pipe actually burst in their attic yesterday. So they had a very unwelcoming surprise of a frozen waterfall that came down. And if you see pictures of, apartment buildings across Texas, a lot of water pipes are actually bursting, which is causing freezing and ice in a number of locations.
Things like frozen pipes, whenever it gets so cold, it's things like that are going to happen. But Texas is also a center of energy production. You've got oil wells all over the place, as we well know from the Dallas television series. So why is Texas being so badly hit right now?
I would have to say that I think because this is so different for us. If you look at the East Coast, they're already prepared with, salt and for the roads and machines to be able to actually assist with this. Because this is such a rarity, we don't have a lot of those supplies. A lot of our energy, windmills, for example, have all frozen. Again, because we're not used to having to cover them in the same way. So I think that's where, unfortunately for us, we've been impacted so badly by the storm because, as I mentioned before, we're not used to this kind of snow. We're not used to this weather.
This is having huge impacts on energy delivery, but also on food supplies. So, and I imagine as well, it will be affecting the agriculture in the state of Texas. How bad is this?
Honestly, from a food supply standpoint, if you go into a grocery store, pretty much you can't find anything. A lot of the grocery stores and restaurants, as well as even gas stations, are closed because of the energy grid and the issues with that, and not being able to have electricity. So that has caused a lot of additional problems, absolutely. And in relation to, sorry, what was your second question again?
Well, the agriculture, yes.
Yeah, so I will say, even just from the basics of our own home garden that we have, pretty much everything is now frozen. As you know, with gardening or any form of agriculture, it really is dependent on the environment and everything that's around it. So having this severe cold weather, especially at this time when a lot of crops were meant to be growing, is going to have a huge impact in terms of just the food supply around the area.
Any news of how long it will be before the power supplies are expected to come back on again? I believe that Texas is in a unique situation that you have your own power company, you're not part of the national grid. So are they expecting to get things back to normal fairly soon?
I think absolutely the idea is the sooner the better, because there's a lot of people in desperate need. But the reality is probably looking at about 2 to 5 days. It depends in every city, how they're being affected. And obviously, like some of the small rural towns may take longer to get power. But overall, we were hoping by this Thursday we would start seeing, well, today I should say, we'd start seeing some improvements, but it is looking about another 2 to 5 days.
It's sooner rather than later. You must be getting frozen cold out in your garden. Devon, thank you so much for joining me today and bringing us a first-hand perspective of the situation in Texas. Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay warm.
So much, ma'am.
And Facebook and Google are at
That
war
was
with
amazing.
Australia.